that quick intro, I will turn it over to Andy and Adam, who will kick it off now. All right,
Awesome.
so over to you.
Thank you, Roland. So my name is Andy. This is my co-founder, Adam. We're two Y Combinator-backed entrepreneurs building AI assistants for in-house legal teams. We're both relatively new to the CodeX scene, but so far we're really loving the high level of discussions. So big shout out to Megan and Roland for curating this amazing community, and big shout out to everyone for showing up, learning new things, and being intellectually curious. So let's dive into it. Let's start with the problem statement. So in the course of building this product, Adam and I have probably interviewed hundreds of lawyers and at least over 100 in-house lawyers. And roughly the pain points of in-house legal teams boil down to two broad categories. The first category is with regards to the volume of work that they have to do. In-house legal teams typically have very broad responsibilities. They're pulled in different directions. So the way that we kind of think about it is that in-house legal is more like a marathon, whereas private practice is more of a sprint. Just because it's a marathon doesn't mean that it's less intense or less overworked as a sprint. And on top of all the broad responsibilities, we've noticed that 30 to 80% of an in-house counsel's day is actually being spent on very repetitive tasks. So these are tasks that are very procedural. So like if A, then do B, and they're usually highly manual tasks. So something that we have to keep in mind is that good solutions for in-house legal teams should not add to their already very high workload. They shouldn't have to jump through hoops in order to get the benefits of the solutions. The solutions should work around the in-house legal and not the other way around. Now, the second bucket of pain points is with regards to their resources. So unlike their private practice peers, in-house teams are often treated as cost centers. So they have to always, fight tooth and nail in order to get the budget to do the very important work that they do. This also means that they typically don't have the budget to purchase multiple expensive tools. They typically want one or two tools that do a lot of things for them. So good solutions have to be more comprehensive, and they also have to provide good value for the money being spent. And this is where we believe Tower comes in. So Tower right now is composed of three core components. The first is the intelligent intake. We monitor communication channels like email or chat, and we actually extract information from those channels. And we can use that to build a lot of automation. So for instance, we can triage requests. So say Adam is the in-house counsel in charge of employment law. If an inquiry comes in asking about employment law, our AI will recognize right away that Adam's the person that this should go to. And we can also sanity check requests. So for instance, if people are reaching out to Adam about specific employment contracts, but they forget to attach the contract, we can go back, our AI will pick that up, and then we'll go back for the additional context. The end goal is for our product to be able to run entire playbooks. So typically, a lot of organizations will have these rules that they follow. So for instance, for MSAs, they might need approval from finance, and they have to keep following up. So our AI should be able to automate all of that, and instead of human having to do it. So after the intelligent intake, we actually automatically populate a matter management platform. So typically today for matter management, it's a highly manual process, whether it be someone inputting tickets directly manually, or you'd have to build these workflows from scratch in order to have this automation. So our idea is that it should be minimal work. So we actually have the AI extract the necessary context from the conversations, and we'll actually build matter tickets from that. And lastly, we have natural language search. So typically, a lot of in-house legal teams don't have access to tools like iManage or other specific document management tools. And they use business tools like Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. So we actually want to be able to have a knowledge management system built in that lays on top of their current systems. And we also offer natural language search on top of that. And Adam will talk a bit more about the technicalities later. But the idea is to have an end-to-end system where we want an AI to be able to handle a lot of the mundane tasks that an in-house counsel would currently have to do manually. So tasks would include a lot of the people that we've spoken with, they get tasks such as, hey, like I want to learn this clause from a contract that we did like 3 years ago. So currently they have to go through, find the contract, find the specific clause. But our idea is to have an AI observe them and then be able to take over and do the first pass response. And kind of with regards to our philosophy about building, we really wanted to integrate with the current tools that in-house legals are already using. So we're built on top of existing ecosystems that a lot of in-house teams already use. And we're extremely lightweight and flexible. So we can really accommodate a whole variety of functionality without having the in-house team switch what they're currently doing. So they can keep their current workflows, but still get the benefits of automation and matter management. So let's go into a quick demo to show what our product currently does. So here is a generic request that a legal team might get. It's asking for a review of an MSA with regards to indemnity clause. So two things I want to flag is that I actually forgot to attach the MSA into this email. And I added contextual information like needing this by the next Friday. Okay. So let's send this off.
Here, conveniently, Microsoft reminds you to attach it, but you would be surprised how many councils have people forgetting to attach things or irrelevant files being attached or things being unclear as among their list of pain points.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for our AI to respond, we can take a look at our matter management document platform. So it's kind of a place, a central repository where you have all of your active and inactive matters, which are tasks that lawyers would work on. So here you see we have a bunch of information, metadata surrounding the matters. And if you click in, you can see that we really designed this to be a centralized location of truth. So here we see the email thread, and ideally, if you have different communication methods, different email chains, you should be able to add all of those in here, and you can have like an overview of everything that's relevant to the matter. And we also have lightweight document management. For instance, this is actually just on top of SharePoint. So they can currently use whatever they're using for their current document management, and we just build automations on top of that. So our AI has responded already. And you can see our AI picked up that we're missing context that's relevant to this matter. So it flagged it and it's asking for additional context. And just quickly, I want to just show some other features that we built in, such as the ability to be able to pull in and add conversations to existing matters as well. So this again goes back to our platform being the source of truth for all of these different matters. So now let's take a look at our search capabilities. Let's just search for emails and something like maybe like how to fire people. So something very colloquial, and maybe Adam can explain what's happening behind the hood.
Yeah, so currently the way today that people are searching through their files, they're manually going through folders, they're relying on keyword searches, hoping that people name things correctly. What we've built here is like a proper natural language vector search. So what we're doing is we're actually, as you can see, we found the relevant information here. We'll just kind of dive in. We find relevant files using NLP comparisons and kind of modern LLM techniques. And then we highlight the key details that the LLM finds relevant. And this is really important, not only to help people find what's, the files they're working on faster, but kind of what Andy alluded to earlier is that we want to be able to automatically respond on their behalf and kind of draft everything end to end for them and perhaps extract key details. So the ability for us to find that relevant information is kind of a stepping stone for that next step. And there's actually a lot of complexity built into here. I'll give a quick peek into kind of the technical background. So as I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, they're kind of this common class of embedding of modern natural language techniques where you take some text, you embed it, and then you do a vector comparison with the question. So we took this question, how to fire people, then we create an embedding, compare it to the rest of the, embeddings of documents we already have that we found from their drive and their communications, and then we find what's most relevant. But it actually gets a lot more complex than that. There's a lot of things that we have to do as intermediate steps. The first one is how you actually chunk up the data, because if I take a whole contract, right, and I take a chunk of this. Typically for embeddings, you take smaller chunks so that you can kind of keep more data in each single chunk. You can kind of keep more of the original chunk. But a section of a contract doesn't really provide clarity to the overall contract originally. So we do a lot of work in extracting metadata about the contract and inserting that into every single chunk. We extract a summary of what the contract is, kind of who the parties are, what the type of agreement is, so that that key data is actually remembered in every chunk, even if that chunk only talks about perhaps termination provisions. It still maintains that important information so we can surface it. The kind of next step is we do this embedding comparison, but embeddings are a kind of low resolution compression, right? I can't take an 8,000 token, 8,000 word document and then compress it to like 1,000 integers and then, or floats, and then have it preserve data. So we have to use re-ranking methods to then kind of pick which data is the most relevant. We also have to enhance the query. For example, how to fire people. Using multiple techniques to try and build more data and then figure out exactly what query to run behind the scenes. So in kind of constructing around NLP search around legal documents, there's a lot of added complexity because of the way legal documents are fundamentally structured. For example, in a contract, you could say referencing section 5.1 and then write a whole amendment. But without knowing the context of section 5.1, you can't faithfully kind of capture the context in a embedding. So there's a lot of really interesting work that I think a lot of companies are discovering.
Yeah, so to Adam's point, basically the TLDR is there's a lot that happens underneath the hood, and it's not just like a keyword search. Like for instance, here we reference fire, which is never the terminology used in any of the things that were returned, but we're able to extract the context to find similarities within the different documents. So it's actually really interesting. I think Adam would be happy to give a full talk some other time if people are interested. But it's a lot of things that we're learning and discovering as we're building out the system. So going back to the presentation. So the TLDR is we're really focused on the two main buckets of pain points that in-house legal experiences. So in particular, our platform's designed to be as hands-off as possible. So legal should be able to do what they currently do without having to jump through hoops, and they can get the benefits of automation and AI and matter management. And it's also a very powerful platform because we can build a lot of automation with this. This is really just the basis, and we really want to be able to build more functionality, starting with matter management, and later on adding even more technical functionality. So in conclusion, thank you everyone for listening to our presentation. For people here who are in-house counsels who may be interested, reach out to us and mention that you heard us from CodeX. We'll give you early access and also preferential pricing. And for outside counsels, please introduce us to your in-house peers. We'd love to help them get home at 5 p.m. every day. Thanks, everyone.
That's a great pitch. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you giving special discounts to CodeX community members. That's always very much appreciated. So yeah, you all heard it. There's a call to action. So I think that's very cool. First of all, the pain point as you described it, I think is also what I've learned from many in-house counsel friends, which is that they don't have the same access to all the tech as the outside counsel, and different kind of cost consciousness. But then also, like, I think the way you've integrated matter management with, LLM powered document review, and just sort of integrating it sort of naturally in the communication tools, I think is very elegant and very cool. I would have been interested in seeing, how the actual how your system actually processed the MSA indemnification. You didn't show that, but anyways, it's it's very cool. So we have some quite specific questions already. Benjamin's asking you, are you using a regular embedding or using a steerable embedding, like an instructor series of embeddings?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're using traditional embedding techniques, using kind of one of the common providers today. We're doing a lot of pre-processing on that embedding around kind of, I alluded to extracting metadata, restructuring the document to pull in kind of relevant context. And then we're doing a lot of the methods that we're doing further are kind of around re-ranking after the embedding's produced, extracting additional data. We've been looking at doing kind of multi-layer embeddings to get like varying levels of granularity. Haven't had the time to test that deeply yet, but that's one of the things that's on our roadmap. And then the other thing we're doing kind of in the realm is we're using multiple techniques for how we embed the query. So some of the common ones are hide, for example, hypothetical document explanation, I think. But the idea is like if someone asks a question, the technique is that you use an LLM to generate pseudo answers that are inaccurate, but look roughly realistic because perhaps in a vector space, those could be closer. And then we're also kind of working on some more agentic behavior to be able to extract deeper context about the query, about what kinds of documents that's structured in. So those are some hidden details.
Mm-hmm. Can you also tell, so I think a couple of other, so first of all, sort of the example you used, has to do with document review and contract review. Is this sort of like one of the main kind of use cases you see for in-house counsel, or what are some of the other ones? Some might be more sort of compliance related, and where you may have to bring in data from the external legal environment, and try to trigger workflows around compliance. And yeah, I guess that's the question. What sort of other areas do you think you will try to tackle with your system?
Yeah, Roland, that's an excellent question. And right now we just have matter management built out as our core functionality, but later on we want more agentic behavior to be able to actually take a look at how legal addressed those things in the past and then replicate that. So I think that's our end goal. We don't have it built out yet, but it's a vision that we're working towards where our agent will be almost like an AI assistant. So it should be able to take a look at what legal did in the past, extract playbooks from that, and then run those playbooks.
Okay.
The key thing
for any kind of legal issues, right? Not just contract review, but
yeah, it should be comprehensive.
could be also litigation related or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's designed to be a more general purpose tool that can specialize depending on the specific use cases of different legal departments.
Okay. And so where are you guys as a company? You said you are currently in a Y Combinator cohort, and are you does that make you sort of pre-seed or seed level? And
yeah, we'd be pre-seed. We graduated from the winter 24 class, so we're very early, but we're both very passionate about legal workflows. Like we go to bed thinking about legal workflow and then wake up and we think about legal workflow. So this has been all encompassing to what we're working on for the past month and a half.
Yeah, and are you already deployed with some in-house departments, or are you sort of about to launch?
Yeah, so we have a couple customers. We're just finalizing the contracts with them. And then we're also looking for more design partners. I think our goal is to have around 8 to 10 design partners. So there's still a couple spots open if people are interested.
All right. Awesome. Hold on. So Ariane is saying, what are Tower's competitive advantages in this increasingly crowded space?
That's a totally fair question. Do you want to?
Yeah, so I think like there's the ethos largely in the space. There's kind of two camps. There's, let's bring software to like Web 2.0 software to law, which is kind of a step up from where most of law is operating. And then there's the camp of like, let's automate huge swaths of legal functionality and let's just go really deep. Our ethos is somewhere in the middle where we want to leverage all these modern AI techniques, but we want to kind of work from the bottom up. Basically, there's a lot of friction points in law, especially in-house, where data set, like systems aren't interconnected, communications are manual, and we're working on automating kind of those basic tasks up from the ground. And our bet is really on building a system that can, rather than be like, 99.999% precision on one task, build something that's adaptable and can take care of many tasks. and can perhaps give us kind of like a 70-30 benefit where we can take away 70% of people's, basic tasks, and kind of let them focus on that substantive work. So a lot of our work is around kind of designing a generalizable, RAG with citation pipeline, so that we can extract these key details and then build agentic behavior on top of that.
Yeah, and to Adam's point, we're customer-led, meaning that we only build things that customers tell us to build. So for instance, this whole Outlook thing was actually a customer's idea. They didn't like the idea of having like a manual matter management, so we just built an automated one. And we really believe that there's a lot of low-hanging fruits like matter management, which can and should be automated.
Mm. So Nancy is giving a design suggestion, saying that permissioning layers around a few areas like employment issues, data breach, and merger would be good. There are times when not all internal counsel should be exposed to certain issues. Could be, for example, because of privacy issues. And so, yeah, so I think that's a good question. And Aaron's question is a little bit related. So how you're more broadly thinking about addressing the challenges around privilege, confidentiality arising from, well, it's quite separate, but it's also an interesting question, arising from the training of the models leveraging historical data.
Yeah, so maybe I can start with Nancy's question. I think that's a totally fair point, and that's something that we've had very long discussions about with our current customers. And the idea is that we basically piggyback off of whatever security or confidentiality agreements that are built in within our ecosystem. So we just inherit whatever Microsoft's security is or whatever Google's security is. So we actually don't touch that at all, and it's just something that we inherit. So for instance, if someone within legal don't have the security credentials to access a certain file, they wouldn't see it in our platform also, because we just take the same security credentials that Microsoft gives us and we build that into our platform. And to Aaron's point, do you want to?
Yeah, so that's a great flag. So today we're not fine-tuning models. So we don't actually use customer data in our training sets. We think that you can go quite far without fine-tuning. Like a lot of the literature in the LLM space is that seems to be for most tasks, you can go quite far without fine-tuning. So our bet's a lot more on kind of optimizing the whole data pipeline, make sure our embeddings are performing to the highest extent. To protect privilege, we are working on building like PII, PHI masking systems, and of course permissions such that things aren't shared across bounds.
Yeah, maybe we'll take a look
And
at
then,
the iShield presentation from last week.
and then, yeah, that's a good idea. Then Rath is saying, well, great presentation. What metrics or benchmarks do you use to measure the accuracy and reliability of your AI's output in legal settings? Can you share any success stories or case studies where your AI has significantly improved legal outcomes?
Yeah, so far we're quite early, so we don't really have any case studies. Hopefully, once we deploy with our current customers, we'll have some case studies. So maybe we'll come back in a month or two. But with regards to the benchmarks, so do you want to?
Yeah, so we're kind of fine. We're building this in chunks. So a huge chunk of our recent effort was focused around optimizing email search through vector performance. So through there, we're basically building a data set internally based off of certain publicly available larger data sets. Funnily enough, the Enron emails are actually a great data set of large emails. They're one of like the only good data sets of large emails. So we're basically using traditional scores in the data science space, like looking at false positive rate, false negative rate. RAGUS is one of the popular scores now. But we're basically we're building a data set of like fixed, sets of this fixed bank of emails. Part of it's this Enron data set, part of it's other internal data sets. We're not fine-tuning models, so we're not learning anything from the Enron data set. I want to make that very clear. But we're using that to kind of test how accurately we can find the correct information, find the correct passages. Those are our main kind of focus points for revision, largely because we also have to respect privacy and confidentiality of customer data. So it's not kosher for us to do this kind of direct improvement and refining on customer data.
So as you sell your solution to in-house departments, there may be some differences in terms of like the size of the company and the in-house department, in terms of like what systems they already have in place, right? And how much legal tech they may already be relying on. But in sort of your target customer segment, whatever that may be, is sort of small, mid-sized company, legal department of a tech company, or maybe even a Fortune 500. I don't know. But what's your pitch in terms of like, what approach, what processes and what tech are you kind of replacing or supplementing? How do you make this a frictionless kind of as frictionless switch as possible for your prospective customers?
Yeah, the goal is to handle legal adjacent stuff first. So not a lot of lawyers went to law school so they can search for documents or so they can, input tickets into matter management fields. So we want to start with like the low-hanging fruits, in particular search and matter management. Those are their two sort of beachheads into in-house legal teams. And then from there, we really want to work with in-house legal to see what they actually need, and we can build out whatever functionality that they need.
Okay.
On the front of like how we'll integrate, I think our key estimation is that we want to make it as low effort as possible and inherit as much of your data as we can. So a lot of teams are operating with huge chunks of their data on SharePoint in Google Drive. A lot of even larger scale teams don't have formal matter management systems or CLMs in place. So we're inheriting all the data and all the knowledge they already have in their email and in their drive, so that when they do get those requests, like what were the termination provisions on this contract, we can find that automatically. Or if they get a question where there was a similar question asked before, we can see that interaction in their email. So our goal is kind of inherit that information from their existing systems.
So it could even substitute for a CLM for companies that.
Not yet, but we can integrate.
Eventually. All right. So maybe the last question, since we're sort of at time already, what LLMs are you using to power your product?
Yep. So today we're using primarily the OpenAI suite. It's on our roadmap to explore the others, but we've been getting decent results with them. I think like a lot of the outcomes, like a lot of the decisions that are actually made to the LLM are split up into piecemeal decisions where the accuracy with the LLM isn't the largest issue. The largest issue is kind of the faithfulness that you can do recall in with like your RAG pipeline and embeddings, right? Because this is like a very low, an embedding by definition is a very low resolution compression. So there's so much variance based off of how you pre-process, how you chunk your data in the performance there, that matters way more than perhaps like the LLM at the end of the day, where you hand it all of the relevant information like on a silver platter and say, answer the question with this. We're a lot more focused on getting the initial data. And regarding sharing proprietary documents with OpenAI, OpenAI has 0 data retention agreements that they offer, and we're specifically using Azure's OpenAI offering, which kind of has that 0 data retention except for moderation built in, and they give definitive assurances that it's not going to be used in training data with OpenAI. So that's kind of how we make sure that our customers' data is safe.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Andy and Adam, this is great. Thank you so much for that introduction to Tower. We wish you, all the best for, this kind of next phase of the company, and hopefully some folks in this group, maybe helping you along the way. Maybe your first customer. So I know some people who might need your software. But I think it's very cool, and we really appreciate you sharing it and introducing it to the world at CodeX. So
thank you, Roland, and thank you everyone for thoughtful questions.
Yeah, thank you. Great to have you. All right, so we'll turn it over to Diego and Claudia now.
Hello, everybody. We're
Hi.
so happy to be here. Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Megan, for the opportunity to present to the CodeX meeting group. We are a company based in Mexico City. We're MindLogix, and we've been building a contract a drafting platform and as well as due diligence automation platform that it's all embedded into the same web page. So I'm a lawyer by career. Claudia, my partner, she's the technical founder. And what I realized by working in big law and with in-house teams is that there are many contract drafting tasks that are repetitive, as already Andy and Adam were stating in their presentation, and that can be automated in order to improve the workflow within enterprises. We also realize there are some contract drafting that sales teams or procurement teams are doing, but that they're dependent completely into the in-house lawyers. So the workflow is thus slowed because they are depending on how fast can these in-house teams work for them and for the in-house tickets. So we came with a solution in order to allow for teams within sales or procurement or whichever area within an enterprise to be able to draft these day-to-day contracts, and also for in-house lawyers for these repetitive tasks. Another thing we realized that is a very a big pain point for enterprises is that they already have their own template. So our intake or our ethos as a legal tech startup is not to provide those contracts to the companies because they already have them, but sometimes they have as many as maybe 30 or 50 different templates for the same type of contract. So what we do is being able to draft these 30 or 50 templates and adequate it to the specific manner by asking simple questions with a smart questionnaire. So with that introduction, I would like to show you our platform. So in this order of thought, that the company is using their own templates, they give it to us and we do all the work for them to adapt them into simple questions. So for example, I'm going to show you this work we did. That is for LOIs, non-disclosure agreements, service agreements, and commercial agency agreements. So what the user will have to do is just choose what kind of contract he needs. Let's say a service agreement. I took the liberty to pre-fill in order to make this more agile. So he would have to answer specific questions about the contract, like for example, in this service agreement, who is the service provider, the kind of company. We have certain fields that are already automated and others that are free for the user to fill out. That depends on the needs of the specific company. So we ask for these specific details about the contract, this for service providers, representatives, and I'm going to jump to this smart contract feature I was talking about. So, for example, in this specific service contract agreement, they have these three ways in which normally these companies pay. So, depending on the answer, the questions will vary. So, let's say they are going to for a down payment with a monthly, weekly payment based. On advances, it's going to ask for certain questions. If they go for down payment with settlement at the end, it's going to ask for another. And let's say on the back end of our platform, we're building as a puzzle the contract, inserting the right clauses applicable to the answers the user is giving us. So at the end, we will only ask for reminder details. That's for our reminder service we have for deadlines or obligations the counterparty has to fulfill, etc. And we have synchronized our platform with all available calendars. So let's say Google, which is the one I have, which is the one I use. So here it will give me the reminder for this kind of contract, and it will save as an event. And then I can just create my contract, my service agreement contract. And then all the information and all the clauses that we filled will be inside the contract. And here we'll just have to downloaded as a Microsoft Word document or as a print or as a PDF. We've also integrated our platform with DocuSign in case there is nothing else to be done to the contract. So you'll send it to DocuSign for e-signature. And then we thought that maybe you made a mistake within the creation of the contract. So we added a feature that it's called Manage, where you can see all of the contracts you've generated. So here is the CodeX one. And with one simple click, all the answers will be pre-filled. So you can correct any mistake you've taken. Then finally, the automation of the due diligence. Here we've created this feature that allows you to ask for many questions to many documents at the same time in order to perform due diligence for massive documents. So let's say in here, sorry that everything is in Spanish because obviously this platform, since we're Mexican companies, thought to be used by Mexican companies. So let's say I have these articles of incorporation of two companies, and I want to perform the same kind of questions to both of them. So I would go to generate due diligence. I will type in the questions. So let's say, who are the shareholders? And then I'll ask, who has powers? Sorry. Then I click on generate report. We're working with an OpenAI API. That's the artificial intelligence we're using. So after it will generate the report, and then you can download the report and run it for as many documents as you'd like, or for as many questions as you'd like. So while it charges, I'm going to run here to my other. To show you some of our other features. So we have the calendar that, remember, we typed the CodeX reminder. So you can see it either on your Google Calendar or Outlook or whatever, and you can see it as well in the platform. You can see it in this view or as an agenda. Change to English. And then you can classify as well all your obligations in whichever way you want in, or whichever filter. So you have various obligations, critical, expirations, payments, whatever, and you can classify them all. So in order to keep the governance of the agreement in place. So back to the due diligence. Now we have the answers back. I'm sorry again, this is all in Spanish. But then these are for the two articles of incorporation. It classifies the answers in numbers according to the question we posed. So in here, it gave me the shareholders for the first articles of incorporation of this company, and the same for the other one. And then also the powers of attorney. Here's the answer, and also here for the other company. And then you can do this, as I was saying, for as many answers or for as many documents as you'd like. This we thought, because I mean, as working as a lawyer, I experienced all the due diligence hard work that is to extract information from a big chunk of documents. So yeah, and then finally we also have a task management feature in order to manage legal teams or in-house legal teams. You can add tasks. Let's say create the service agreement, and then you can add it. You can assign it to anyone in your team. I'm going to assign it to myself. Say with a classification in order to have order within this task assignment. Let's say contract creation for the service agreement due for Friday, so the priority is going to be high. And then here it is our task, so my manager can see when I'm working on it. So I'll move it into in progress, or when I'm done with the task. So the manager has control of everything his team or her team is doing. and also, yeah, to improve all the workflow. And then finally, here in tasks, I can see all the tasks that anyone within the team has assigned to me. So this is the view I would have when anyone assigns me a task. So that's basically what we've been creating. Any technical questions, I will let Claudia answer them. Or if you have any other business related questions or whatever, please ask us away.
All right, thank you so much. So this is very much kind of geared towards the manager in a sense, right? You have to, it gives like the manager this kind of dashboard where he or she can like assign tasks, and then you can get sort of like the LLM in the background to help generate contracts. Are you also working to go through past contracts of the organization to develop playbooks, or so yeah, I think you mentioned that the starting point is the document from the customer, right?
Exactly. So yeah, that's a starting point. I forgot to mention, like we have two types of views for the task, for the manager of a team, and then for the guys within the team. So there are certain features that any or other member of the team would have that maybe the manager has access to all, but somebody within his team wouldn't have access to. So for example, you can limit the access to certain persons within the team just to the creation of certain contracts, and that's thought in the way to limit that some members of a team cannot interfere with the work of other members of another team, etc. And yeah, another the evolution of our workflow, answering your question, Roland, would be that we also want to offer general templates for a broader market. So not just for enterprises, but for individuals or for small small companies that maybe don't have the templates for their day-to-day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because sometimes, companies really struggle to get to that bottleneck, right? Like the general counsel, they're inundated with like different legal tech offerings. And, from other industries, there are examples of companies who were sort of successful in getting, having utility for an individual contributor. And then, many individual contributors were like just using it for something, and then all of a sudden, the company saw a need to start embracing it and getting some kind of enterprise subscription or something. And I'm not quite sure what that could be for these kind of in-house tools, but anyways, I think in terms of like a go-to-market, it's an interesting strategy because it will help you go kind of bottoms up rather than having to go through the general counsel. But anyways, so Rath is saying, nice presentation and useful product. And he has a couple of questions. How does your tool ensure the accuracy of the documents it generates? And can it customize documents to comply with specific legal requirements or jurisdictions? Number two, what mechanisms are in place for users to provide feedback on document accuracy and overall tool functionality? How is this feedback incorporated into future versions of the tool?
Okay, so the accuracy of the documents, since we base all our templates on each of our clients. So for example, client A will only be able to see client's A templates. The accuracy of the documents is not generated at the moment. The only thing generated at the moment is the variable information within each contract. So for example, in the example I provided, the variables would be the name of the counterparty, the date in which it will be signed, etc. And all the clauses that are inserting are pre-written clauses by the in-house lawyers. So there is absolute certainty that everything is going to be within the scope of what the in-house lawyers want, because all documents are pre-approved. And yes, so it can be very specific with legal requirements of jurisdictions, because I mean, we can work with documents from whichever part of the world. We just have to have the document from the enterprise. And at the moment, we don't have a mechanism for feedback on the tool.
So it helps you basically, just to kind of make sure I get this right, to create documents based on the library of documents that your customer has. You're not at the point where you help your customers review third-party documents and maybe compare them to, you know, your own playbooks and then do an automatic redlining, which some other companies are doing, but that's not
Yeah.
something you're focused on right now.
Yeah, that's right. We're not focused on that at the moment. We're only extracting the information with the due diligence automation, where you can ask any questions from third-party documents, but we are not doing redlining at the moment.
Okay. And once you create the document though, so then the idea is that then you make it available to the counterparty, and is there like, does the system help in negotiating terms in some fashion?
Yes, it helps if you want to change any of the variable information. So with the feature of manage, where all of the answers are pre-charged again, then you can make changes if any negotiation requires to make changes to the document. The limitation is that these changes have to be within the variables. If there are new clauses that weren't provided beforehand, then that's the limit of the scope at the moment that we have.
So, so the LLM is mostly used then to, if you have several contracts and you do what you call due diligence, create like what's missing from these contracts, or, that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, like our ethos in the due diligence is that we didn't want to anticipate the lawyer's needs beforehand. So when we first developed this tool, we were thinking of giving a certain number of pre-arranged questions, or limit the questions in order to say extract information alone. But then after talking to in-house lawyers and lawyers within law firms, we realized that this information extraction can vary from deal to deal. So sometimes they might only want to know whether there is a certain clause present or no. So they would like a yes or no answer. Or maybe they want an executive summary of a number of contracts. So what we did is to leave it open, the query, in order to ask any question with the prompt you want to give it. So you can ask the prompt in the due diligence assistant, like limit your answer to a yes or no. Is there let's say a COVID limit of responsibility clause within this set of 100 documents? So the answer you will get back is straightforward. Is it present or is it not? Or you can ask, give me a summary of these 100 contracts and limit it to 5 lines. So you can play a little bit with the prompt you give it in order to adapt to or to be personalized to the dealing question the lawyer needs answers to.
I understand. Great. So what's next for you? What's the most important thing that you want to tackle next? Both in terms of the business side of things and going to market, as well as on the technology side of things.
I'll let Claudia answer for the technology part of things, and then I'll answer on the business side.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. We are working on new features. They are all based in LLMs to associate it with due diligence in the application. We think we can make some search on the documents, working with embeddings. And we think we can add something like search on the database where we have from the client. And this is what we're working on.
Yeah, and on the business side, well, we've been sorry, I forgot the word in English. Self-funding since we started. So at the moment, we're trying to raise capital in order to be able to grow and acquire customers and to keep evolving on the technology we're developing. So that's on the business sides.
Okay, so so are you already deployed with some companies or?
Yes, we've already deployed with 2 companies that operate within Mexico. They are not transnationals. And we're trying, to get because everything is thought to serve for big enterprises, since they are the ones who have large volumes of contract drafting and of information extracting within legal documents. So our challenge at the moment is acquiring these big enterprises as clients.
Okay, but you're mostly focused on the Mexican market or all of the Spanish speaking
Yeah,
world or Latin
Spanish
America?
speaking.
Spanish speaking, okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, Mark's asking, what kind of competition you face.
Well, as I think we're all aware, and it was said on Andy's presentation, it's a very competitive market right now. All these features, and I think there are many companies from the US that are already operating in Mexico, and for the Latin American market, there are also some very interesting Latin American companies. And I think, it's a very interesting place to be in, because technology development goes so fast that you have to keep being competitive in order to succeed.
And what's your, I mean, do you have a thesis around how you best compete with these companies? Is it sort of like on features or on price or on user experience?
Yes, our main differentiation, and it's something we got from speaking with many companies, is that we believe that personalized solutions are the ones that are going to be successful, since uh, even within the same industry, companies have many different needs within, or pain points within, their in-house legal teams. So you can speak to a company that is in the telecom industry, and to company A, and then to company B. And from the outside, you would think that their problems or their pain points within the legal work are practically the same. But then when you go in depth, you realize they have very different pain points. So they need a personalized solution. So everything in our platform is thought in order to be as personalized or as bespoke as possible, in order to tackle these pain points that each of our specific clients has.
So that's very interesting too, and but you have it set up in your software for people to sort of create a more bespoke solution for their own business. It's not something that you have to spend lots of human hours on helping, because that makes it hard to scale then, right?
Yeah, everything is thought to be scalable from our side, and as bespoke as possible from our client's perspective. So obviously there are certain limitations within the platform, as it's logical. But just to take an example, we had a client that needed to create documents from Excel, from Excel information. So we embedded the generation of the here. My screen still showing, right? So
Yeah.
I'll show you really fast. So what we did is allow for this variable information to be filled in by the Excel. So for example, in here, I would have just to choose the Excel in question, and then with that, I will be able to generate the 33 contracts that are within this database from Excel. So just to do the example really fast. So that's some of the kind of bespoke solutions we can do, and I think that's our main differentiation.
Great. And your business model is it subscription per seat, or is it per documents generated? How does this work?
Yeah, it's subscription based. So it depends on how many documents you want to create. and then that's our subscription-based price. So here in the example, I just generated these 27 contracts that were based on the Excel information. But that works just for this client that wanted that solution in particular. So we embedded that into our already like deployed platform. And then we can do as many of these small personalizations that help to attack these pain points that each specific client has.
Cool. Very cool. Well, great. So, well, we're pretty much at the end of our time. So if there are no more questions, I would like to close here then with, by thanking you also for presenting, Diego and Claudia, and joining us from Mexico. And it's interesting, the kind of solutions that are being built around the world, and we appreciate legal tech innovators joining us from around the world. So really appreciate you sharing your work with us, and yeah, we wish you all the best for your next steps. I hope that some folks in the group will be able to help you, or maybe if they have more questions, maybe you can put your contact information into the chat, so folks can reach out directly to you. Yeah, that's it for today. We'll close here, and yeah, we'll let you know. I don't know, Megan, do we have a session next week or?
No, I think that's it for May.
Okay, that's it for May. All right, so this was the last session for May. We'll send out an email in June about our next CodeX group meeting. In the meantime, I hope you all having a good rest of your month of May. And yeah, be in touch. Let us know if there are some presentations or projects you want to share with the group. It could be a startup, could be a research project. We're always happy to invite folks to present to our group. And yeah, to our presenters, Andy, Adam, Diego, and Claudia, thank you again. And I'll give you sort of on behalf of everyone a round of applause. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all at our next session. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.